Hey everybody, it's Tim of Broken Dice. In this video, we're going to look at turn 2 of the first battle of Season 2 of my solo wargaming campaign of Rome in Iberia. Alright, so let's move the camera around. We'll do a quick little review of what happened in the first turn, and then we'll get right into the action in this second turn. Alright, let's take this camera up a little bit. As you can see, on the Roman turn, they moved forward quite far on their Roman right. This division on my left, I am playing the Iberian commander, didn't move at all. This is my unreliable ally who only has the leadership of 7, so it's kind of debatable whether he'll do anything at all. And if you watch one of my earlier videos on this topic, I talk about how in the second, or at the beginning of the third turn, any failed orders by this commander automatically go to the blunder table. Now, I do have some units off table that need to come on, but that won't happen until the start of turn 3, so we're going to have to hold on until help arrives, and this is like a steamroller coming forward. And you can see at the top, we have a gold marker, a silver marker, and then just on the other side of the building is a bronze marker. And those are my 3 objectives I have to capture. And at the beginning of turn 3, we're going to roll a die 4, and we're going to see if they move around. Yeah, this is my problem-solving scenarios. So I have issues right now. So let's pause the video here for a second, and we're going to start issuing some orders, and we will be right back here in just a second. Okay, here we are. We're back. Hey, good news for the Iberians. My unreliable ally actually did a division order, was successful. The light troops moved to engage the opposing unit's light troops. The light cavalry and the open order Catrate infantry on the left have moved up forward. Just one move, though. That does give the light cavalry the ability to throw some javelins at the advancing Roman cohort coming out of the woods. But we didn't make into combat. No move got really that close. Actually, this guy here shouldn't be that close. The unit got close, but we moved through our guy, and I moved the base. But anyway, the light infantry will engage the archers, and that takes care of all the movement on my far left division. Toward my center division, they passed their orders by 2. And so one unit was able to actually a unit plus a support was able to get into charge range. Another unit and some supports were able to move really far forward, and the advanced slingers, they were able to push through the gap of the Roman line. So now I have to think about what's going to go over here on my right. As you can see down here, my commander has a very large unit that's got to move through the woods. But the real tactical decision here is you can look up and see at the top of the screen here, I have 2 small units of open order Catrate. It's standing right in front of a full cohort. Now, if my cavalry decide to charge the Roman allied cavalry in the flank, and my light infantry break, then therefore I expose my cavalry's flank to the Romans, which is a really great possibility that'll happen. So do I charge in the light infantry and then support them with my cavalry? Or do I skirt the cavalry around the already previously engaged units, Roman allied cavalry, and charge the infantry that's coming up behind? some decisions to be made. What would you do? What would you do in this situation? All right, so we're going to have to get back, and I'll make my choices, and I'll be back in just a second. All right, so we're back, and I've made up my mind. My cavalry are going to use their initiative order to charge the Roman allied Gaelic cavalry in the flank. My two light infantry units are going to charge the cohort. The general is going to issue a feigned flight order for the light infantry that are engaged. Again, you'll have to look back in one of the other videos. I talk about some of the special rules that I gave the Iberians and special rules that I gave the Romans to kind of just spice up the game a little bit. So with my Iberians, I give them the ability to evade without needing an order, but every unit also gets feigned flight because that was one of their things that they used to do quite a bit of. And then they're just going to use an initiative order for these open order Caethradi to move forward and throw javelins at that advancing horde of Gaelic allies of the Romans. So then the next thing will be for my army general to issue an order for his large unit of Scutari to move forward. And we'll see how this all turns out. I'll come back in just a second and we'll see how everything lined up. Okay, we're back on the Iberian right. And as you can see, the light infantry at the top of the screen have moved into contact with the Roman cohort. The cavalry have successfully charged into the flank of the Gaelic allied cavalry of the Romans. And the small unit of Caethradi that was engaged with that cavalry unit have successfully fled behind the Roman general. I mean, not the Roman, what am I saying? The Iberian general. And the small unit of Caethradi have used their initiative to move forward one move, and they will throw javelins at the advancing horde of Gaelic warriors. But those were basically all initiative moves. Then when I went back to try to get my army general to move his unit forward, he failed. He failed miserably. I don't think I want to use his one reroll yet, because there may come a time when it becomes even more paramount that I get that roll off. But right now, no. So he's failed. So now we need to roll some dice for some combats and some shooting. So what we'll do is I'm going to pause this. I'm going to move back down to the Iberian left where we're going to engage in some shooting. And then we'll work our way down, do some shooting with my Caethradi down here. And then we will do some combats. So I'll be back in just a second. We're going to roll some dice. All right, shooting. Well, let's move this over here. Oh, there's my light in the way. Over here on my left, the light cavalry facing the cohort on the hill between the woods didn't hit anything. Moving over, I normally am not going to show a lot just the cursory dice rolls, but these were so odd. It's like, really? If somebody told me this, I probably wouldn't believe it either. So the javelin guys, they rolled a 6 to hit the skirmishing archers. My Caethradi rolled a 5 and a 6 to hit the Roman allied archers. So that's 3 points of damage on them right away. Plus, they'll have to take a break. Now, they only have to take one, but they'll still have to take a test. And then I thought, well, we'll just go ahead and roll the dice for this small unit over here. They probably won't do anything. And lo and behold, I rolled another 6. I rolled a 1 and a 6. I mean, honestly, people, I never do this. But I will take this good fortune where I can because I'm up against it right now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to even get to those objective markers, let alone take them. All right, so let's roll some breaks, and I'll be right back. All right, we're back with the shooting. The obviously the Catrati and the javelin guys did a number on those archers. They did 3 points of damage, plus they rolled sixes. The archers had to take a break test, and they retreated in disorder. The other shooting on this far side was far less impressive. They did 1 point of damage, and the unit passed their break test easily, holding their ground in good order. So now we need to do a couple of combats. We've got 3 combats we got to roll for. I'll be right back. All right, on the dice rolling for the combat, the white dice are the Roman dice. The gray dice are the Iberians, and the Iberians rolled really poorly. At least the support unit actually got a couple of hits in. So there were 4 attacks that got through. The Romans saved 3 of them, and they only take 1 point of damage. And so we will roll for their break in just a second. So we'll go on down, and we will do another combat. So here we have 2 small units of Catrate fighting 1 cohort. Well, so that means there's going to be a total of 6 attacks on the clash for my Catrate. And let's do that combat, and I'll roll the dice and we'll see what happens. All right, we're back. The dice have been rolled. Oh, shit, it was a disaster for my Iberians. This unit right here, they were able only to inflict 1 point of damage on the Romans, and the Romans put 4 points of damage back on them and their supporting troops. Yikes, we're going to have to take the break test here. The light infantry Catrati that were the 2 small units that charged the Roman cohort, they did 1 point of damage and took 3 in return. 2 for one, 1 for the other. And here's the real disaster. Okay, so I had a little dilemma I had to come up with. Because that 1 unit that was engaged to the front of that cavalry unit fled, they were no longer engaged on 2 fronts. So that meant that when they were charged, they could be able to turn and face. So my question is, should I have left them there 1 turn and allowed the Iberians to charge them in the flank, even though that unit fled? Because the initiative order took precedent over the direct order from the general to flee. So I could have justified it that way. But what I decided to do, again, was to roll the dice. Well, the way my dice rolling is going, I lost again on the roll, and so I allowed that unit to turn and face the charge. Well, the infantry that they had been engaged with prior to, the Gaelic unit on the right with the Iberian light infantry, had already suffered 2 points of damage. The white dice indicates the amount of damage that the Iberian cavalry did on their charge. That's right, just 2 points of damage. Horrendous dice rolling. In return, needing more to hit, they still inflicted 4 points of damage. So now, all along my line, I have to start taking some break tests. So I'm going to pause here, I'm going to roll for these breaks, and I'll let you know what happened. Well, I'm back. So all I can tell you, it turned into a cluster. Now, we have to look at this in a strange way. We're not going to look at this as like if it's like they're game pieces on like a board game. You have to realize that all this thing happening on this turn kind of happens at the same time, and that's the way I like to think about my war games. As like, even though I'm doing this in stages, this is all happening at the same moment in time, within just a few moments of each other. So It's not like, okay, this gets done and resolved, this gets done and resolved, and once all the action gets resolved, then all the movement gets resolved at the same time. So we got a lot of things to talk about. All right, first up, my my Scutari and Ketrati fighting the cohort with the blue shields. They lost. Both of them will fall back and be disordered. The light infantry that had just chased off the skirmishers need to do a make way. Well, they really don't have to because the unit can move through them because they're in open order. Um, so they have to move over anyway. So we'll just allow them to move out of the way since the unit can move through them. So they really don't become disordered per se. So that's going to be a mess. And then as we move down through here, the two light infantry that were fighting the one cohort, they lost. They both fell back in disorder. Now, I roll a dice to see if the cohort stays in contact with them. And I pass that roll for that cohort. They're eager anyway, so I just assume they would chase them down. And the cavalry lost, and they fell back in disorder. So if we did this in like hard stages, that means the stuff on my left would have moved first. Then the unit that is running directly into the side of my own cavalry wouldn't have been able to move far enough, and so they would have been caught and destroyed. But since I look at it as if all the units are moving at once, this is all in like unison. These cavalry are moving at the same time. These guys are falling back. And so everything's that's behind that cavalry are going to have to do a make way move. And since the one unit is already disordered, the cavalry will just move through them, push them out of the way a little bit. The infantry from the center unit with the Ketrate and the unengaged Scutari, where the commander is, they'll have to do a minor movement to the left to do a make way, as the Roman cohort over here with the blue shields advances forward to stay in contact with the Scutari and Ketrate. So let me get all this moved, then we'll come back and take a look at the battlefield. All right, all the moving's done, and there was a lot of it. Okay, the cohort here with the blue shields, they continued to press their advantage after winning the combat, so they've moved up to stay in contact with the Scutari and the Ketrate. And then this commander here from the center division, he had to do a little bit of a make way to the left, but he's all right. He didn't become disordered. The, I need to do something. This needs to go right here. Whole lot of disorder on the Iberian side of the table. The cavalry moved back. The two units that fled from the Roman cohort with the red shields with the blue plumes, they had to do a make way move, and since they couldn't move to either side or backwards really, I just left them in place, and the Roman cohort remains in contact with them to continue the combat in their phase. One point of note, a little correction I forgot to do, was put the damage that the slingers did to that one Roman cohort, but they shrugged it off. They took a test, but it didn't matter. They rolled so high it didn't matter. And over here we have the damage done to the Gaelic allies. And other than that, that brings us to the end of the Iberian part of turn 2, and it has been nothing but a disaster for the boys. Nothing. If they hold on at all, if my help comes at the beginning of turn 3, I don't even know if it's going to be enough. It may be a done deal before I can get my help onto the table. Alrighty, let's roll for some orders for the Romans. We'll see what goes on there. Well, it's not going well for the Iberians. Let's just say that out front. So let's get up here and let's take a look. Move some stuff out of the way. All right, over on the Roman far right, the two cohorts closest to the enemy use their initiative move to charge. The unit with the yellow shields, they only made the one move, obviously, and so they, even though the enemy evaded, they couldn't make it into the woods, and so they're kind of stuck where they are. The unit to their left or right, they made it into contact with the Iberian infantry, but I tried to order the Romans to send up the unit with the black shields to support the unit that made it into combat, and he failed that order. And they were outside of using their initiative to make it that far. All right. So down here, since all my units that are disordered are in combat still, no disorder came off. So they pressed forward. This Roman unit did. This Roman unit made it into combat, charging the Scutari to their front. This commander up on the hill, he tried to issue orders to both the cohort and to the archers that have recovered from their disorder to move forward and support, and he failed. So that ended his. And on this far Roman left, the Allied contingent moved forward, and the Caetrati that were in front of them, chose the better part of valor and moved back towards the tree line with an evade. So now let's go into basically, we'll see, there's no real shooting for the Romans because they're either out of range or fleeing in disorder. So let's get into some combat here and let's see what happens. Okay, we're back. Let's go through what happened in the combat phase. Over here on the Roman right, what would be the third cohort, wound up in a slugging match with these Scutari. Even charging, they did 4 points of damage, but the Scutari did 4 points of damage back. So we have a drawn combat. Very interesting. And I rolled to see if the commander, the unit commander, got injured in the combat, and he did not. As we move here to the center, what would be I guess that would be the fourth cohort. They are engaged with this unit, these two units here. They were able to issue with the white dice, obviously. They did a total of 5 points of damage this turn. I always give the lead unit the most damage and then only move the excess over to someone else. And so it's 3 and 2. And so the lead unit becomes shaken. But in return, the Scutari and the Caetrati that are supporting them were able to do 4 points of damage to that cohort. That'll be interesting to see if this break test, what happens here. This will be interesting because really they only lost by 1 point. So they may hang around. I'm surprised. I really am. Okay. Hold on just a second. Okay, I forgot I had to roll for this combat right here. Now, obviously, the one unit is not being supported by those Caetrati in the back. So they're fighting that cohort all by themselves. And what's happened is the Romans charged in. They did 4 points of damage. And the Scutari, in return, only did 1 point of damage to them. Again, another break test for the Iberians. This is not looking good. All right, as we come down through here, what happened is the Roman Allied cavalry, it did 4 more points of damage to the Iberian cavalry, which makes them shaken. And the Iberian cavalry did no damage back to the Gallic cavalry that's allied with the Romans, and the Uh, Combat to the front between the two units of light infantry Quechua against that cohort. The cohort was able to do a total of, what is it, 3 points of damage, and the Iberians were able to do just nothing back. They didn't do anything back. So that'll be another break test for the Iberians at a significant disadvantage. So let's get taken care of that, and then we will wrap this one up. All right, we're back. Let's go over what happened with all the break tests. All right, this unit here, surprisingly enough, just fell back with their supports. They didn't break. They're already disordered, but they were not supposed to be disordered by the roll. So since they're already in combat, they have to stay disordered. So, oh well. All right, and here with this combat, the Scutari had to fall back, but they fell back in good order along with their supports, but they didn't have any supports. The Quechua and the commander had to do a make way move, and the cavalry have broken and fled. And then the victorious unit, I had them just move up to prepare for their next turn, and then the Roman cohort fighting the two units of Quechua. One Quechua broke and fled from the battlefield. The other one just fell back in good order. And, oops, let's move my big metal ruler out of the way here. And then on this side, obviously nothing was occurring. Well, if I don't get my extra division to come onto the table, and then some of my supports units to come on, my problem solvers, I think this problem solving exercise is going to be over quickly if things don't turn around. I was so surprised some of the dice rolling just has not gone the Iberian way, but that's why we play the game. That's why we play the games. All right, so let's just take a gander around the battlefield. On the far Iberian left, we've got our cavalry, which had evaded. We've got combat going on with the Romans here. This is the Roman right, the Iberian left. And then we move on down to the center. Now, this cohort has really pushed its way forward now with winning combats and driving these units back. These cohorts and this archer unit, they're kind of on the hill. They're strategic reserves, we can say. And then down here, again, another victorious cohort. It's really a shame I couldn't get my Iberian general to get that big unit moving and get it out into the combats. I think that might have been a bright spot for him, but since he didn't move on his second turn, I think it's going to be a very, very, very bad turn 3 for the Iberians if their supports don't show up. Well, let's put this down. I'm going to give everybody motion sickness. But it's been fun to play out. Yeah, that not getting a move off early on, and then losing the initiative to the Romans, where they moved very far on their right with that one division that's over that way. They moved 3 moves that first turn, and that really puts you in a bind. And my divisions on their first turn failing to move just really done that in pretty quickly. We'll see. Hopefully, I'll roll to see where my help comes in at. It has to come in an open section of the table, but it could come on the right, the left, on my side, or on the Roman side. But we'll see how I can do that. But still, I'm in jeopardy of losing my center division pretty quickly. My division on the right, I've already lost the cavalry. I still have some light infantry and my big unit left on my right, but it's we're in some what would we call dire straits. All right. If you like this kind of thing, give me a thumbs up, like it, share it, do all that kind of stuff. And I want to tell you this: if you guys see me doing anything that you don't think's quite right, and you think, hey, maybe you're doing this wrong, make sure you give me a page and a rule to look up, and that way I can keep this thing as clean as possible. It doesn't look like I'm going to reach those objectives. Oh, look, this may be a win for the Romans early, but we'll see. Turn 3's coming up, and that brings us to the end of this video. So everybody stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you next time. Hey everybody, we're back here. This is the clarification for the second turn. I like doing these little videos, like if I catch myself at the end and I think of something that I did incorrectly, I like doing a little clarification because I want you guys to know that I'm trying to do this as honestly as possible. I'm not trying to, cheat myself, which would be stupid. I mean, I'm sure some people do, but it's not my thing. But the one thing I did notice that I did completely wrong was, you see this unit right here, this cohort. It was fighting the two small units of Kitrate that charged them while they were in open order. Well, you can't do that. What I should have done is given them an order or use their initiative to change to closed order. Now, that would have taken the entire order, and then they would have been subject to a charge from the Romans, which would have been okay because it was going to turn into a disaster anyway. So it really hasn't affected the game much. Maybe in timing of the way things happened, the way that they did win and how they won, but winning was what the Romans were going to do regardless. So you have my apologies for that. The other stuff I think went fairly smoothly, the way it was supposed to go. Although I would have hoped for that my Iberians had moved out quicker and earlier on in the game, but now they're pressed up against the table edge. And like I said, this next turn I'm going to have to roll for my my other division to come on to the table. And then I have a few units that I use to help me offset my problem solving, because I definitely am using the weaker force, as it were, to try to achieve some sort of success in my problem solving exercise. So, but I don't have that many, so I may be just running out of time here. Because if the Romans don't take some significant damage, I won't have enough coming on the table to do enough damage back to them. So, but we'll see. It'll all come down to that roll for allies, that roll to see if they come in. That'll be interesting. But that brings us to the end of the clarification part of this video. So again, everybody stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you next time.